Hello EasyWorkers, how are you doing today? Alright, in today's video we're going to talk about sugar. So here we have a huge giant lollipop that is at least 99% made out of sugar, and the rest of it might not be very good neither, because it might be either flavorings, colorants and conservants. We'll use this lollipop to try to explain what in my opinion happens inside our bodies, in our organism when we eat an excess of sugar. Alright, so we'll leave it here on the desk and we'll come back to it by the end of the video. Alright, so first of all I would like to explain what sugar is, and this is my opinion based on the research I've done so far. Alright, I would like to remark this is my opinion. I would say that sugar is a sweet addictive poison that kills you slowly, so killing you softly, killing you slowly, like the song. Alright, then I would say that sugar provides you very fast energy that will lower your metabolism. So fast energy, slow metabolism, but that doesn't only happen with sugar, it will happen with any food that provides you very fast energy, will tend to slow your metabolism. And finally I would say that when you increase the sugar level in your bloodstream, the glucose levels is basically the same, sugar and glucose in your bloodstream, what will happen is you will need to lower those levels because an excess of sugar is toxic. Then you will use insulin. The tool that you will use to lower your levels, sugar levels, is insulin. Alright, it's a hormone that will tend to get the excess of sugar into the cells so it can be burned, so you release energy. When there is still too much sugar in your bloodstream, it will be taken by insulin again to the liver and the muscles to create glycogen, and when there is still too much sugar, that excess of energy can only be transformed into fat, alright, into body fat. That's why we get fatter. And what happens as well is because we have too much insulin in our bloodstream, we will create resistance to insulin. Therefore, we'll tend to create a pre-diabetes situation. And if this situation carries on over time, we'll create type 2 diabetes by the end, alright? Whenever the end comes, but that's what will happen, alright? So after saying that, I would like to say thank you very much. Thanks to all those easy workers around the world, because thanks to you we reached 1,000 subscribers, and actually we surpassed that quantity. So I'm quite proud. I'm quite proud of having so many followers all around the world, and I'm very happy that you guys have helped me and have believed in my work and supported it. Alright, so and when I say all around the globe, I won't talk about countries because it's too long, but at least I will talk about continents: South America, North America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Oceania. I have subscribers all over the world, so that's great. It's good to know, and thank you all. Easy workers, you're great, you rock. Anyway, I will make a proper video talking about that and thanking you all. Alright, then second thing, this is easy workout, so we'll try to make things easier. So when you see this board here, I'll let you space so you can see it. You'll see things that they don't seem very easy, honestly, yeah. But I will make it easy for you guys. Hopefully my English will help. The good thing is it will always become better, so I will try to explain things so everybody can understand. So far I've been doing things that aren't that easy, but the reason why is because now I'm healthy, and now is the moment to try and do things that I might not be able to do in the future due to age, or due to I won't be healthy, injuries or whatever. So now is the moment to do difficult, hard things, and at the same time we'll keep on doing easy things or try to explain things easier. I don't want to be redundant, but that's the way it is. So I would like to make Easy Workout the channel of the people, right? People's channel. Good. Then I will say that I will start with a series of videos from A to Z, right? So this is the first video in English. It doesn't start with A because it's sugar, but sugar is the English translation of azúcar. Azúcar obviously starts with A. Sugar is azúcar in Spanish, right? So A to Z in Spanish, and whatever the translation in English is the title of the video we'll have. Alright, so after saying that, let's start with the video. So sugar. What's sugar? What sugar is? So let's go for it. Are you ready? Alright, EasyWorkers, so let's go for it. Sugar, what is it? So, well, first of all, this video is not going to be the shortest video, but I will try to make it as short as possible, alright? I would like to go into detail, step by step, explaining how the sugar works in our bodies, alright? And, well, I will start with an anecdote. About 14 years ago, I was having dinner with my grandparents, and then my grandma told my grandpa to stop adding sugar into his yogurt and to add saccharose instead. And because saccharose was way healthier than sugar. So when I started doing my research, I found out that every single web and source I researched said that saccharose is the scientific name of sugar. So saccharose is sugar and sugar is saccharose. So they are the same. So I was thinking, I didn't know what sugar was until now. So that's the anecdote. Well, let's go for it. Saccharose, the scientific name of sugar. Saccharose has the following chemical formula: 12 carbons, 22 hydrogens, and 11 oxygen. So it's C12, H22, O11. Good. So carbon, hydrogen, carbohydrate. So saccharose is a carbohydrate, all right? That's why we call certain foods carbohydrates, because they have carbon and hydrogen, right? So these two formulas together, the formula of glucose and the formula of fructose, which are the molecules that form saccharose, because saccharose is a disaccharide, all right? One saccharide here and the second saccharide. Duo, two, dos, it means two, all right? Two saccharides together that form saccharose with this formula. So if you add C6H12 O6 together, that will give you C12 H22 O11. Now you might wonder, why is O11 instead of O12? Because O6 plus O6 is supposed to be O12. It's because they share one oxygen and they get rid of the other oxygen, so we lose one oxygen, alright? In case you wonder. Good. So the glycemic index of saccharose, or those two molecules together, is 59, alright? More or less 60, 59. The glycemic index is the speed in which certain food is being assimilated, it is being metabolized or digested, if you want. So how long does it take from the moment you put it inside your mouth until it reaches your bloodstream, right? So the fastest it is, the fatter you will tend to become with that food, and the higher it is, the same, the fatter you tend to become. So in a scale from 0 to 100, saccharose has a glycemic index of 60, all right? Saccharose, when it's pure, then it's obviously worse. Any carbohydrate that is pure, that doesn't have fiber, vitamins, other minerals, it will tend to increase the glucose level, the glycemic index, a lot. So glucose has a glycemic index of 100, whereas fructose has a glycemic index of 20. So 100 is the highest possible, from 0 to 100. So let's start with glucose and let's see how it affects us, alright? So as we were saying, the speed in which glucose will reach our bloodstream is very fast. It might take about 15 minutes. Once it's there in our bloodstream, insulin will help us to get that excess of sugar, because we can only have certain amount of sugar in our bloodstream. Above that amount, it becomes toxic. So the maximum sugar we can have in our bloodstream is no more than 5 grams. So if we have 5 to 6 liters of blood, an average person, 5 to 6 depending on the person, liters of blood, imagine we can only have a very small amount of sugar, because the top is 5 grams. Above that is toxic. So insulin will help us to reduce that sugar level, glucose level, by putting it into the cells, How does that happen? So the cell, in the membrane of the cell, there is a specific point where insulin should link. Once the insulin reaches that point, then the cell opens a gate, and then sugar gets inside the cell, so the sugar, glucose, can get burned. All right, so we can it can provide us energy. That's the best way possible to reduce the sugar levels. Right? Good. When we still have too much sugar, what insulin does, helping us again, insulin is the hormone that helps us. Insulin will create glycogen. Glycogen is formed by large chains of glucose all together, right? So we will store the excess of glucose as glycogen in both the muscles and the liver. Hepatic is anything related to the liver. So when we have it in the muscles, it's great when we want to do big efforts, sudden efforts, a lot of strength, or maybe a sprint. So that energy, that glucose, will be released straight away because we have some reserves. Those reserves, they aren't always filled. So if they aren't filled, the glucose will go there, which is great. Then it will go to the liver. Imagine we haven't eaten for a long time because we've been doing intermittent fasting for 16 hours. So we've been fasting for 16 hours, and we have another 8 hours gap in which we can eat, for example, right? So by the end of those 16 hours, it's very likely that we might have very low levels of sugar, which is not good neither, because we need sugar so our nervous system can work properly. So our brain, our electrical impulses, they only work on sugar, on glucose, sorry, which is, we need it, it's essential, right? So the liver will release, if we have those reserves still of glycogen, will release glucose into the bloodstream, so we can keep on working normally. So otherwise we would faint, for example, which happens sometimes. Why did that person faint? Because that person's sugar levels were very low. That person didn't have the glycogen reserves filled in the liver, for example, right? Good. So after that, after glucose being sent to the cells, after glucose being stored as glycogen in muscles and liver, then the only option to get rid of the excess of sugar, of glucose, is to store it, to convert it into body fat. So we'll store the excess of energy because the body is wise and it doesn't just get rid of the excess of energy. It will store it because the body doesn't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so you might need that energy. The only way to store it is as body fat. So that's why we get fatter, right? Good. Why can we develop a pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes even? Because when insulin is way too high, because we have too high levels of glucose in our bloodstream, what happens is insulin will reach that specific point to link the cell, but because there is too much insulin giving signals to the cell won't be able to respond accordingly to the demands. So imagine they are calling you once, you can pick up the phone, but if they are calling you 1,000 times, you won't be able to pick up the phone 1,000 times. You might pick up the phone 100 times. So the insulin reaches there, and the cell, the membrane of the cell, is insensitive to insulin. So you become resistant to insulin, right? The same way you can say you become resistant to so many calls to the phone, right? You can't handle that. The cells can handle the bombing of insulin hormone towards them. So the gates, when they should open, they are not opening anymore. So sugar cannot get in. So the excess of sugar still remains in the bloodstream. Then, as I said, you develop resistance to insulin. Then you might develop in the future pre-diabetes, or even if this situation carries on, type 2 diabetes, right? Alright, so let's go. I'm rushing, so I'm trying to make it as quick as possible. We said that these two glucose and fructose, even if they have the same formula, they have different shapes. This has an hexagon shape, that's why it can go straight away to the cells, and this has a pentagon shape. It cannot go straight away to the cells with the help of insulin. So what do we need? What we need is exokinase. Hexagon exokinase, it will convert fructose into a molecule with an hexagon shape. Now fructose can be used by the cells, which is great. So we will lower the glucose levels in the bloodstream. But the problem we have is exokinase, which is an enzyme, I believe you call it like that, enzyme. It gets wasted. We run out of it very quickly, right? So most of fructose cannot be burned into the cells, right? So to use fructose, we need fructokinase, which is another enzyme, and the only way to use fructose with fructokinase is to send it to the liver, and the liver can only convert it into fat, right? So most of it converts into fat. So when they tell you fructose is way better because it comes from fruit, and that's true, but it's very good if it comes with the fruit, because the fruit has fiber, the fruit has minerals, vitamins, and they will lower the glycemic index, so it's way better for you. But the problem is usually we eat sugar by itself, or maybe for example sugar, saccharose, sugar comes from beetroot. But if you eat it with beetroot, it's great, it's very healthy. Beetroots are very healthy. But we usually buy sugar in a packet of 1 kilogram packet of white sugar, table sugar, as we all know it, alright? So then this is how we get fatter with fructose. But how do we develop type 2 diabetes with fructose? So fat, you can also call it fatty acids. And fatty acids, as its name says, they are acids. So the problem is acids, when we have an excess of them, they can be bad. For example, too much acidic situation, too much acid in our bloodstream is bad. So when the cells are surrounded by fatty acids, the membrane can get damaged, at least where insulin links to the cells. So if that specific spot is damaged, when insulin reaches there, it won't perform its function. So the gate won't open either. So what happens there is either fat or either an excess of insulin will lead you to the same situation, right? Insulin won't work because you have resistance to insulin, or because the links of where insulin is supposed to connect they are not working properly anymore, right? They've been damaged. So that's how, one way or the other, an excess of glucose or an excess of fructose is bad for you, right? And even fructose is even worse, because fructose will get you fat easier if it's pure, right? If it comes with the fruit, it's very good, because as I said, it's not an empty calorie. Because what happens with pure sugar, pure fructose, pure glucose, pure fructose, is that they are empty calories, so they don't provide you fiber, sorry. They don't provide you minerals or vitamins, right? So hopefully that makes sense. As I said, my English will get better. Hopefully it's good enough so you guys can understand. Please feel free to ask me any kind of question, suggest me any topic. Like the video if you like it, share it, subscribe if you feel like, share it if you think it could help someone else. Now let's go for this show that it's not even an experiment, let's call it like that. So this weighs 125 grams. Because of that, because this is pure sugar, mainly pure sugar, half of it is glucose and the other half is fructose. So 62.5 grams will be glucose. What happens with glucose? We can burn a part of it, yes, and that will be the best situation. But if we eat this when we are watching a movie as a dessert, yes, we won't be burning the excess of sugar. So part of it can go to the cell. Then the rest can go into glycogen, and the excess of it, because remember we can only have 5 grams maximum. So if we have 62.5 grams of glucose, it's a lot. It's like 12 or to 13 times more. So most of it will be converted into fat after going to the cells, form glycogen. Then the next step is to be converted into fat. And the other 62.5 grams of fructose, most of it will be converted into fat in the liver, and only a small part of it will be directed to the cells to be burned there and provide energy. So basically, when you eat this, and if you don't work out straight away and you will need to work out hard, all of it, most of it, like 90% of it, let's say this is an example, will convert into fat. So 90% of these carbohydrates, this glucose, will convert into fat, alright? So they always told us the worst thing for you is fat, but I would say, and this is my opinion based on my research, the worst thing for you is high glycemic index carbohydrates, and sugar, fructose and glucose, and anything that is actually very sweet are high glycemic index carbohydrates, unless you eat them with a lot of fiber and they provide you something apart from just empty energy. Alright, so this has been too long already. Thanks for being there, thanks for watching. Remember that you are powerful, and if you eat less sugar, you're even more powerful. I'll explain to you in another video why you're powerful. Switch on your motivation.